Hello everybody, here is Country Music News International. My name is Christian Lamitschka. Today on the show, our new interviewer Thomas Muth, and we are proudly present you one of the best singer-songwriters here in town from Nashville, Tennessee. His name is...
Dillon Dixon.
Dillon, oh hello, sorry. Dillon, I give now the microphone to Thomas, who would like to ask you a couple of questions. Thomas, folks, it's his second interview now, and we are really proud to have him because he is the best talking speaker in English I ever know.
That was a very nice intro. Thank you, Christian, for that.
You don't need to hold it so close.
Thank you.
Because he held it way out here.
Okay, so then, then we do it. Okay.
You take two.
Now, folks, we still go ahead.
You make me a little nervous now. That's not fair for my segment.
Don't be nervous.
But actually, I learned that your breadth of what you do in your work is quite wide. So on the one hand, I learned that you are doing something with Andrea Berg, yes, on the one hand side, but also for DJ Bobo on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I also learned that you are actually were involved in the soundtrack of the latest Terminator movie.
Correct.
So that's quite a big broad of work, right?
Yes.
Is it? So can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's fantastic that even though I'm from Nashville, technically, I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. So I grew up in the snow and the mountains, and I grew up with an acoustic guitar. So that being said, I've established a lot of country roots as I was growing up, and which brought me to Nashville about 25 years ago. And I stumbled on a band that needed another singer and songwriter, acoustic guitar player that was based out of Austria and Germany. And they said, hey, come on over and be a part of this. And I said, okay, cool, I will. So I did that for about 4 years, and in the meantime, while I was touring there, there was a publishing company that took interest in me out of Innsbruck, Austria. And so I ended up signing with them, Schädler Music, and they've been wonderful to me ever since. And we've had some great successes, not just in Europe, but worldwide. And I've been very fortunate to be able to take the songwriting platform that I learned here in Nashville, and I got to expound on it everywhere. And so what I would take is, I grew up in pop music. I grew up listening to pop music, folk music, country music, rock and roll, British rock and roll, and just like water to a sponge, I was just always internalizing it. And Schädler Music helped me be able to take everything that I've learned and be able to use it internationally. And so it's been such a blessing for me to be able to sit. Sometimes I sit with a German programmer and a Finnish topliner, or a Swiss programmer and a Dutch artist. And we've been able to sit in rooms and make this music. And it's been such a wonderful, wonderful experience that, again, we come back here to Nashville. In my early days, my publishers and publishing companies, they would send me to LA a lot. And that's how I got to know a lot of people in the film industry, right, in LA. So after a span of 25 years, I've found many homes. And it's very, very exciting. I'm in a very, very good place, comfortable. And what's exciting for me is to be able to create with music, which is like an international language. So there are some people that don't even speak English that I'm sitting in a room with. And yet we have guitars, we have programming, and I write in English, or I'll come up with a melody. Like when I worked for Andrea Berg, and when I worked with DJ Bobo, DJ Swiss, Andreas Deutsch, German, I found ways to hum melodies that would that would work with their tongue. I've had a lot of experience in Schlager music, so I've had a chance to really find the phrasings, like working with Roland Kaiser and working with some of these other Austrian Schlager bands. I hear their melodies. I don't understand what they say a lot.
There we come to the point that will be my question. How does it work? Because by the fact it is in a different language. So you are creating, just for our listeners and readers here, just the melody. You are not coming up with the lyrics. Or are you part of the lyric team too?
Sometimes what happens is, usually I will come up with the story. I will have a storyline, like we'll be playing music and we'll come up with a melody, or we'll come up with some sort of musical platform, so to say, and it'll make me think of a story. For example, in Schlager music, you would hear kind of a very acoustic, organic, folky kind of music. And where does that put me? Well, it puts me in the Austrian Alps, or it puts me in Bavaria, or Passau, or somewhere where it's, shall we say, it's very folk-oriented. And I'll come up with the stories. And then as I write the lyrics in English, sometimes I'll bend the melody to where it will sound a little bit German, meaning I make up the melody. I'll sing some words in English, but then I'll roll the tongue in, try to do it in German, and it's a make-up German. I call it angel babble, because I don't know what I'm saying, but it'll be something like little words on the ends.
I totally understand. It is like Phil Collins is singing Lion King in German. He had no idea what he's singing, but it was awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
So is there? How do you get into this creative process? Is it something that just kicks in automatically, or do you sometimes need somebody who challenges you, or people inspiring you? How does it work?
All of the above.
All of the above.
I like to look at songwriting like a painter looks at a blank canvas. If this was nothing behind us, we start with a white canvas, a good cup of coffee, and a good conversation, and maybe some music. And as that starts to evolve, then all of a sudden, you throw some paint on, you throw some paint on, I throw some paint on, and something starts to take shape. And that's the beautiful thing of music being at the center without any language. Music is the language, and that's what makes it so exciting for me, because everybody understands it in one way or another.
By the fact you are traveling so many times and talking with so many people in different languages, okay, I always know you most time will talk in English, but when you wake up in the morning, might be listening to a German song, and next time in Danish song, are you not might be mixing languages by the end of the day?
You could say that, but I'm very blessed to know that working with a lot of the people that I work with, they have taken the time in their lives to learn English. And for that I'm very grateful. For that I'm very flattered that you as children took the time to learn English and not just German. And I'm a little embarrassed sometimes when I go over there because I don't know German. I studied Spanish, so I know a little bit of Spanish, but not enough to where I can have conversations with these people. But I'm blessed that what also is fun is if you're working, let's just say I do a lot of work with Germans and German-speaking people. What's fun for me is to, let's say you're the programmer and you're the top liner or you're the artist. Mm-hmm. I'll be here with the guitar and you'll be going, oh yeah, das ist cool, das ist geil. You'll be like, yeah, cool. And then we start to work, you turn around and you put your headphones on and you start to program, okay? We start talking about an idea, about lyrics, about where you think you would want the song to go, because you're the German singer. You sing in a German tongue. So what I would do is we would develop the story. When you're done programming, right, you would turn around and then I would watch you two speak in German. And that's how I learned a lot of the language. Even though I can't speak it, I can understand a lot of it because so many times I've watched people like you speak in your native tongue. And that excites me because when you are speaking in German, you're either very pissed off because something's not working right, or you're very happy because it's cool. And that makes me feel good. And that's where, and to have that musical spirit over all of it is what makes it so exciting.
But probably for our movie fans here on Country Music News International, you have them to tell the story about how you got your song on Terminator 3.
I've been very fortunate to do a lot of work with Marco Beltrami, who is the orchestrator, and he does all of the music for many movies. He invited me back in the mid-1990s to work on Scream. Scream was one of his first movies, which was one of my first cuts in film. And from that came a lot of interest in many other movies that followed. And it just kind of trickled down to that. And then Marco called me again and said, hey, we're working on Terminator 3. Come on out to LA and work. So it's been very, very exciting to be able to branch out and do that as well.
By the fact that more and more people just like to hear, as example, by Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places, and that is something a must-have to play at his concerts, what you have to do. He doesn't have to take care about so much new ideas for new songs, just only might be when he's coming up with one CD a year, you have to take care about new music. But you have to come up with each time new ideas. Isn't there a point where you say, gosh, I had this idea for the last 3 songs before? How do you create your new ideas for songs?
Well, first of all, I try to steer away from taking an idea. Let's just say we wrote the idea and it didn't work. I try to get rid of that idea because I don't want to take that idea, give it to somebody else, and out of respect to us as songwriters, have a different story or have the same story and whatnot with another artist, because that's disrespect to the work that we did. So I choose to always try to come up with something new. And songs are like potato chips. You just, one, you can't just eat one. And two, you know that there's a million in the bowl for you to eat.
Have you ever created one potato chip or have eaten one yourself, and then sometime later you realize, okay, I should have done this a little differently? And I mean, you, as an artist, typically like painters or people like in the movie business, they occasionally recut it somehow. So does that happen to you as well as a musical artist?
Yes. It's frustrating sometimes because my time is short on the creative aspect. Working, like let's say we worked together, us 3, we only worked a day. And unless you came over here and stayed for a week and I had 2 or 3 days with you, we would write one song and then we'd write another song. And then we'd go back to the first song and say, since he's the artist, we would say, hey, what do you feel? Are there any changes we need to make? When you have that kind of time, that's the most precious thing. But what happens a lot, especially when I travel in Europe, is we have one day. We have one day to get it done. And me coming back around to see you again will be a long time. And in that time, after we say goodbye, you've written 50 more songs with other people. And so, to my disadvantage, I don't get that chance to help figure out how to make our song great for you. And that's frustrating. That's frustrating. Now, every once in a while, and it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, I'll get a phone call or an email or a WhatsApp from you going, this song is great. My publisher loves it, my label loves it, I love it, we're taking it into the studio and we're cutting it. Now, when you get those kind of messages, those are the best that can ever happen. But for the work that I do, it's it's few and far between that it happens so much. I wish it happened more. But these are the frustrations of international travel. These are the frustrations of the expense, on my publisher's expense for having me join you. It's frustrating sometimes because I want to come back around and say, hey man, we wrote that song last year. What are you going to do with it? And they're like, oh no man, I already made the record. And I'm like, "Ugh, you should have called me, we could have fixed it, you know?" Or somehow, what's happening in today's technology, which I'm so excited about, is I can write with you on WhatsApp or Skype.
And then seeing each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I could record them right at home. I could record the guitar and maybe a vocal or a top line. And then you get the files and you kind of massage it and make it how you want to do it. That's what's very advantageous in today's market.
So, what can we expect to see from you in the future?
Wow. I'm in a very good place right now with where I am creatively, with where I am with my publisher, with where I am with my career. I was chasing the artist thing for a long time, and my songwriting has got me to a point where now there's a demand for people to want to hear my songs. Even though you cut them, they cut them, now I get to perform them in my own way. And there's a little bit of demand over in Europe for it, not as much as I wish, but when I'm here at home, a lot of people want me to sing a lot of my songs that I've written for the world, and that's very flattering, humbling, but that's one side. The other side is to still continue after all of my travels and the wonderful experiences that I've had creatively, to keep that going, because there's not too many people in the world that are fortunate to do what I do.
So, what is now the best way, as example, when some artists or movie maker want you as a songwriter? What's the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact me is through my manager, which is Kathy Nakos. I also have an open Facebook message page, and then I'll give you my business card before I leave here.
So folks, you know what to do is, first of all, take our long-term friend, Kathy Nakos. She is the person you have to contact when you like to know more about him and everything else. Also, you can contact us here on Country Music News International. We have his business card. Don't forget it.